Hey, this is Drew Weatherton. I'm here with Forest64. Hey. We're going to talk about the mystery boost. We've figured out how it works and figured out maybe some additional applications that we'd like to share with you. So we're going to start with what is the mystery boost? So we're going to show a video from Troy Ullman that shows a mystery boost on Luigi Raceway. It happens around when you're off-road, and it happens on this shroom slide for mysterious reasons, especially in this video, since he doesn't hit the wall and there's no real clear reason for him to have gotten this boost. So you can see he caught up to his ghost there. He came around that corner. He didn't appear to hit the corner. He just used a single shroom, and then he mysteriously was not slowed down by the grass as much, or sand, as much as the other ghost. Okay, so that's one way to get that mystery boost. People found that it was more consistent, though, to bump into the wall. So we'll look at current world record by Dan, and we'll see how he does the mystery boost on the first lap, the one shroomer of his 3 lap.
Last time back afterwards.
So you can see there that he actually runs into the wall. We'll watch it one more time.
For some reason I lost time back afterwards.
Okay, so he also seemed to get a boost. Harder to tell because his ghost also got the boost. But there were other places where there were mysterious boosts that happen if you got near walls, it seemed. And another one is here on Koopa Troopa Beach, which is particularly odd because you're in the middle of the course. It doesn't even seem like you're off-road necessarily. So let's watch Dan race his ghost here. And his ghost also got the boost, I think, but he has another comparison where he's racing his ghost when it doesn't get that. But if you watch, he gets really, really close. To this wall. And that seems to be the key, I think he was saying. If you just get close to that wall and you go faster for some reason. So one thing to note is Koopa Troopa Beach actually is off-road. Forest, I think you looked at, it was a slightly, it's not quite a full off-road.
Yeah, most surfaces, they're either like on-road where you drive at full speed or off-road where you're slowed down. And all off-roads are the same speed except the sand like Koopa Troopa Beach is kind of like somewhere in the middle.
So we are off-road a little bit here, so maybe something related is going on. Well, let's see. We got a post a few weeks back from Dead Hamster saying, hey, there's something odd happening on a custom level I have that is actually frustrating to me because, let's see. I think I have a picture here. Yeah, so here's actually the post. If I could probably get it to stay on screen, that would be better. So here's something I stumbled upon, Weatherton. I doubt you'll find a use for it anywhere, though. And he cries. Well, we did find a use for it, so we'll get to that. I keep bumping. Sorry. And basically he said he goes and he jumps on this part of his course that's supposed to be off-road, but it acts as if he's not. Let's look at the video. All right, so this section up here is supposed to be off-road, but he jumps up to it and his character drives normally until he jumps, and then he starts driving as if it's slow. And one thing you can notice really well here is that when he's driving quickly, his tires don't have any dust, and when he jumps, there is dust that appears. And Forrest, you had previously found some tire information that we'd kind of tucked away as, hey, look at this at some point and try to make more sense of it. And
Yeah,
based on
like
this,
the center tire, or not really a tire, but it's like whatever surface you're on the center of your car. Then I found there were also values for the left and right side, which I assumed were for the dust behind the wheels, but never really found out a use for it other than that.
But when Dead Hamster showed us this, you went to try to find a similar height jump in the game, and didn't find it. But you didn't you modify Bowser Castle stairs? I think that's what you did.
Oh yeah, this jump here is I think 8 units high, and like the max height you can jump is 8 or 9 units maybe. The closest thing to it is the stairs on Bowser's Castle, where it's just like 2 floors that are a slight height difference apart, but they're 10 units apart, so it's a bit too big to jump up, but if you make your character slightly larger, you can jump on it. And I found out that if you do make your character slightly larger and jump up the stairs like it, you get the same effect as here.
Got it. So if we go back for a moment and look at Dan's video that we looked at, and we watched
I should also mention that I first was testing a bunch on the course because Dead Hamster sent it to me, so that helped a lot, being able to test it on the first place we saw it.
Yes, he was very generous to send over the course and then a test course with a bunch of geometry that was interesting as well. So if you look closely, in the video quality is not fantastic here, so we'll have to try to see it. When he hits this wall, the dust stops coming out of the left tire for a little while. See, it's coming out of the right tire, but it's not coming out of the left tire. And then he goes over a little bump in the road and it starts coming out of the left tire again. And so that's another telltale sign that these things are actually related. All right, so I'm going to pull up the Luigi Raceway video with Bowser. Oops, if I can find it. Open on the wrong screen, of course. All right, so in this video, we're on Luigi Raceway. There's an open corner, which means it's, if you watch the Bismuth video about how walls work here, it's basically you can get really close to the actual wall to the point that you can, at a low speed, go through it. At least certainly with your tires. Your tires are offset from the position of your character. So it's pretty easy to kind of get your tires into this little part of the wall. And I've put on the screen 4 memory addresses that are probably hard to read, but these are your back left, back right, front right tires. What surface the game considers them to be on. And it's currently considering them to be on 8, which is grass.
Yeah, there's a whole list of surface types that Micro found, and you could probably link that to a GitHub page.
Yeah, good thinking. Yeah. So surface type 8 is grass, so grass is going to slow you down if your tire's in surface type 8. And it actually matters which tires and how many. It slows you down a different amount. But if you go up to this wall and poke one of those tires out through, you can see when I kind of bumped into the wall there, sort of through the wall a little bit, my front left tire is the one that went through enough to, and my front right as well. Went through enough so that they were considered to be over the void or over, the water that's under the level. And now they're at a type 0, which means nothing. It means that you're over nothing. Or you can think of that as null as well. It's a null surface. So I've got the front left and front right tire, thinking that I'm on nothing. Now I turn around. And I back up to that same corner. And you can see it just kind of swiveled around, so I got my back left and back right. So now I've got all 4 tires set to null or nothing. And the game actually does think that my tires are on nothing. They're no longer on grass. So as I drive around, you can see I don't have any grass flying off my tires. I'm still keeping this state all zeros. And I'm driving up to the start line because I'm going to do a test that we weren't sure what the result would be of this test. Can I go around the first corner keeping these null tire values? And one thing to note, at this point at least, our understanding was that you cannot keep these null tires if you jump when you're over the ground.
Just like we saw in the first video, you drive around at full speed on the off-road until you jump, and then it realizes that your tires are on off-road.
So if I were to jump into a slide, for example, which is an important mechanic in this game to be able to make a turn well, I would lose this state. So that's why I've chosen Bowser for this test, because Bowser is the only character that if you A-B spin and then you use a shroom, you can keep a high speed in that state for indefinitely. You can stay pretty high speed. It's not a super high speed. I think it's like 50 or 60 kilometers per hour, but it's a lot better than other characters, which drop down significantly. So I'm coming up to the line. I'm about to use a mushroom, and I'm going to try to make this first corner inside on the grass at full speed. So the first thing that you see is it turns out there's no flat section right here. There is some slope in this ground. And it turns out, at least in the way that we've gotten the null tires in this part, if you go over any sort of slope surface, it's really hard to keep all 4 tires at, and we still don't fully understand this, to be clear. It's hard to keep them all at a null state. And so what tends to happen if you go over an angled surface is the tires that sort of come off the ground. So in this case, I'm on a slope from left to right, so the left tires kind of go off the ground a little bit. Those ones lose their state, their null state, and they go to whatever surface they're on. So 7 is sand. No matter, it's just a task, and we're just testing anyway. So there's an open corner over here that we can brush by and quickly get those both set to 0.
Also, just want to point out, you can notice that on the left side, you can see the sand dust being knocked up by the wheel, but not the right. So this is like what we were talking about before.
Yeah, good point. Right. So when I went over this, you started to see, and that's a good visual indicator that you've lost your null tires. Although it's only the back tires that do that indication for some reason. If you have the front tires, if you have the back tires null but the front tires not, you won't see any dust. All right, so I bump into this wall, and you can see I got the null tire status back. So I did have to drive a little ways with 2 tires on sand, but no matter. I'm still driving at, you can see I'm at over 5 units per frame, which is over 60 kilometers per hour. And I'm turning because A-B spin turning is, you don't really lose speed while you do that, not a lot at least. And then we get here. And I don't remember the exact timing, but this was, what was it, a couple seconds slower or one? I don't remember how many.
I think it was like about a second slower.
Okay, a second slower than the world record. Or maybe it was the TAS, I don't remember. But enough that it was like, okay, there's no optimization you can do around that corner to make up for that much loss. And then even if you could, now you've got to drive the second half of this lap with Bowser, which is, he's a slow character. And I can't quickly get the null tire state back on all 4 tires. And anyway, so our first idea of how we could maybe basically break the game with the Null tires didn't work. Okay, so we've only talked about getting this tire state from on a flat surface having gone over a void. Should we say anything more about that situation before we talk about the other way to do it for us?
Well, pretty much all there was here is, like you said, there's no easy way to get a lot of them. You can quickly get one or maybe two, like you do in the current 3-lap for the mystery boost, but there's no easy way to get 4 of them unless you spend like 20 seconds spinning around like you did. So that's why it's hard to just find applications anyway, and also you need a large, flat off-road surface that you're not using mushroom over anyway. So that kind of restricts the options that we have.
Right, and it has to be completely flat, like z-normal of 1 to...
Like I saw with the sand over there, it's a very small bump on the far left of the road, but it's still enough to lose the tires and slow you down significantly.
Right. Of course.
One other thing to mention is that, as you said, each tire, like depending on how many of your 4 tires are off-road, it slows you down proportionally. Except it seems like the front right tire being off-road does not have as strong of an effect. So if like only your front right tire is off-road, you're barely slowed down at all. But if say only your front left is off-road or any of the other 3, it's a much larger effect. And there's no real clear reason why that is. Just something interesting.
It's kind of unfortunate because it's much easier to get your front tires into this state because you can get it just by... Oh, I didn't describe how Troy got it on that first turn. Troy was just so close to the wall that on one of the corners, his tire, front tire, I assume, went in over the void. And yeah, so it definitely can be done without having to like sit there and bump into a open corner, but getting the back tires is much harder because when you're sliding like the back out. So you'd have to get... It would be a hard situation, as Forrest was saying, to find something where you could set up all 4 while sliding or other things. So, okay, so that is one way to get it on a flat surface. Another way is by jumping up high and then landing on a surface. But I want to make one point. Oddly, I've kept my back left tire in a null state somehow, even though I've gone over all those like angled surfaces. So I think there's really more to understand in terms of how you lose these things, but it's very fickle and it's not... Even if there's a way to keep them all in this state, which I don't know that there is a reasonable way to do it across something like a bumpy terrain, it's not like an RTA break the game kind of thing. So, okay, so jumping. I've got an emulator here where I can show this situation. Hold on. So DK Jungle Parkway is an example. I mean, actually, there's tons of examples. So, in fact, just about any level, if you get enough height over, and you can see my tire states up in the top left. If you get enough height over a off-road section, you'll get everything to go null.
I think it's true for any section. It doesn't have to be off-road, just far enough above the ground, right?
True. Yeah, it doesn't have to be off-road. I guess it wouldn't matter at all if it were not off-road from a speed perspective. But yeah, good point. It would matter, like, there's certain surfaces that make special noises or make you rattle around, even though it doesn't affect your speed. I think it would change those things. But you jump up high. See, not all that high either. It's higher than you could jump on a flat surface, but just get a little bounce. You can get into the null state, and then if you land, you can keep it. And oddly, not only can you keep it, but you can keep it while jumping. So you can see, and while getting hit by these things. So I'm sitting over here, and I lost it there, but so I'm able to jump and spin and reverse and do all these things, and I don't lose it. So this situation's different than the flat grounds over a void situation, and it seems a lot more powerful because now you can jump. And unfortunately, it's actually in many ways less powerful because this state that you get in, and we don't understand why, this applies only to the polygon that you're currently on. So as soon as you leave that polygon, the polygon I'm on here, the reason I'm showing it here is it's a pretty big one. But still, if you leave the polygon like I just did, I left the polygon, then even if you stay flat, the state's reset. So here you'd have to find a large polygon that's off-road that you wouldn't have otherwise shroomed on, I guess, right? That is a shorter path to go over. And in that exact situation, this might be useful. Yeah, so and maybe it's useful here. I have to say probably not, because this foliage sticks out, so it's like not as useful as you would think to get up on here and cut the corner, because you're going to end up going wide. But this is actually used in a number of places, and players have known about it but not understood why. So one place would be Calamari Desert. Oh, this also helps. I forgot to mention, when you're over an off-road section, even though you're up above it, if your tire state is that off-road section, you're still getting slowed down.
So, for example, like if you are on off-road and just jump normally, you don't get high enough off.
Correct.
Your tires stay in the off-road state.
Correct. And then, although you're less affected by the road, I think it seems to be, you do go faster by jumping. You're still affected by the off-road. But if you jump high enough that you get into this null state, you actually are no longer slowed down by the off-road, even as you come down and approach the ground again. So if we watch this again, I get to 0, and then even though I'm coming close to the ground, like as close as I could have jumped, and even if I land on the ground, actually, it stays null. It depends whether you're going over different polygons as you come down, because if you transition polygons while you're close enough to the ground, it's going to reset. But, it still could be useful. And it is used. Calamari Desert, when you're doing the hill hops, it's effectively this that's benefiting that. Yoshi Valley, at the end of the lap, at the end of the race, whether it be, I don't know if it's 3-lap or fast lap. Definitely 3-lap. But I don't know if it's fast lap as well. But I think
Pretty sure you're shrooming to the end at fast lap.
Yeah, I think, you're right. Yeah, so it's 3-lap when you drive into the grass at the end. Dan did some tests and said, it's faster for me to jump off this hill. And the reason it's faster to jump off that hill is it's this bump at the very end. You actually get high enough to get this null tire state. I bet we're using it other places as well. Like, I just am not, or we could, right? There's probably micro optimizations you could use to maybe I should, instead of just hopping there, I should specifically go to that bump and jump off that to get to the null state. And by the way, in doing that, be careful about which polygon I choose to be over when I'm doing that. Worth noting, if you're mushrooming, if you're shrooming at all, if you have an active shroom, off-road doesn't affect you at all. So it's another thing where Forrest mentioned the specific situations this is helpful is when you're off-road without a shroom. And
one more thing to mention is you said this does not work on flat ground.
Does it not?
Didn't you say this one wouldn't work if the surface you land on? Apart?
It does work on flat ground, but it has the same limitation of I thought it did. It has the same limitation of the polygon you're on.
Oh, that might have been it. I know you said there was some restrictions.
Yeah.
You couldn't get it to work, but it could have been the polygon. I'm not sure if that was checked.
I can't. Yeah, I actually don't know for sure, and that's part of. We're just trying to get this video out to share with people, but there's obviously more we need to understand. Let's see. So I guess. Oh, let's mention other levels where this could help. Like Mario Raceway and Roll Raceway are two courses where there's a lot of grass, and you can cut that grass to save time. So there's probably micro optimizations there, like coming close to a wall after the mushroom, for example, on Mario Raceway. Maybe you could get some null tires there, and it could be helpful. It depends on whether it's flat ground, how that's helpful, and we'd have to look at each situation. But there is one situation where we already know it's faster, and it's kind of surprising, I guess, how it's different. So I'm going to open up a task that I'm working on that's not done, unfortunately, but it's good enough, I think, to show where we're at. And this one is on Bowser's Castle. Waiting for the emulator to respond. Okay. So on Bowser Castle, which is the first level that Forest you were testing, jumping up on the steps, you found that if you backed up over the bridge, that was one place you could get your null tires. And that was also odd because you could jump in a circle and keep all four when you were on the edge.
Yeah, which seems to be probably something to do with the polygons that we were talking about.
Right. It's probably you're on the same polygon while you spin. That's probably it. So I think it does work on flat ground. That seems to verify it, but we'd have to check. But doing that would be really slow, and then given where those bridges are, it wouldn't be a very good setup for a fast lap. So in any case, it actually is possible to get null tires without just sitting there spinning around on this bridge. So at the very start, well, we're going to look at the start of a 3-lap task that's not done. And the 3-lap task, or the 3-lap, you use the mushroom in the courtyard at the beginning here across the grass. There's no question that's absolutely the strongest shroom. I don't know how strong it is, but I feel like it saves like a second or something. And all the other ones seem to save like a quarter second or thereabouts. So clearly this is the place you should shroom in a 3-lap. It also is, well, I won't, yeah. So as it turns out, though, you can get this mystery boost, this null tires thing, by going over here, and you kind of have to dance on the edge. So this, on the first lap, is not all that RTA viable. But you can see I've already gotten back left, front left to null. And then I actually fall under the bridge and get all 4 to null, and I'm still in a slide, importantly. So now I've started the lap with all 4 tires to null in a slide, building a mini turbo. So this is a good situation to be in. I haven't really lost, I think I've lost about 2 frames by doing that little dance there. And Forrest, you had done some math on why this pushes me back up. I don't know if you can like share in some summary fashion how that works.
Oh, sure. So basically the road is 5.5-ish units thick, and you're on top of that. But if you start to fall off the side, let's say you fall down 2 units by going off the side of the road, then you go back over the road. Because there's 5.5 units you can fall, and you only fell 2 of them, for example, you'll re-enter like the side of the road and get pushed back up to the surface. And if you re-enter the road on the same frame that you would have like past below the bottom of it, sometimes you can be like underneath the road for a frame, but still get pulled up afterward.
So it's important to note here for RTA, people looking at this for RTA, if you just slide off the edge and then kind of swoop back and get the right angle to do all this, it won't work because you're falling too fast. The frame pacing doesn't work out to allow what Forrest just described. So it was important. I didn't understand that mechanic when I got this to work. But I let go of R here and jumped while I was inside of the side of this bridge, for lack of a better word. And then I slid again, and then that's when I fell. So if you jump before, before a lot of things, like jumping changes the physics in the near future. And here it makes it so I don't fall as fast. And so it means that the frame spacing is correct so that I can have that sequence of events Forrest described happen where I'm sort of outside the bridge, but I'm coming back in and getting pushed back up while still under it. It's pretty precise here on lap 1.
Yeah, if you just normally kind of slide off the edge and then get back on the side, you're only going to get 2 of the 4 tires.
Right.
To be the null state. Once you get all 4, you kind of need to do that thing where you fall underneath it, which is very hard to do.
Which, to be clear, getting all 4 null tires is optimal, but it doesn't mean that getting 2 or 3 might not be helpful. We haven't tested that extensively yet, and it still might be helpful. Also, on the second lap, since you're not shroom sliding from a fixed point, you're actually mini turboing, it might be easier to get this to happen. But we just haven't had a chance to test that yet. Nonetheless, all right, we'll show it from here, and I'll add comments as we go. So I got a mini turbo. I still have all 4 null tires, and I'm driving towards the grass. Normally you would shroom across this grass, but now I can drive at full speed. So I drove at full speed. The moment I jumped, I lost the benefit of the null tires. Since I'm above the grass, it's not a terrible loss, but you certainly don't want to land again on the grass. And I even started turning before I jumped because I didn't want to lose that too early. All right, so let's watch that at full speed once, and then I'll describe some other important things here that are actually unrelated to null tires. Okay, so I actually don't recall the measurements of how far behind I am from my prior tasks or the world record here. I thought it was like 0.15 or something, right around there. I don't know.
Well, how much did you save in the next 3 rooms, do you think, approximately?
I don't remember. Well, I should show that because
at the top of the stairs, you were, I think, 0.13 behind using the shroom compared to your old test.
Oh, the top of the stairs. Okay. Yeah, well, I actually lose time at one point because of the thwomp sliding. So, yeah, that might be. I might have kind of kept 0.15 through that whole sequence.
I think it was like 0.17 before the bridge, before the stairs.
Okay. So let's just call it 0.2 behind, for example. We'll just assume I gained some time here to the checkpoints you're mentioning. So the important thing is, all right, I've just given up, let's say 0.20 seconds where I could have used that mushroom. The question then is another mushroom in this course at least 0.20 or whatever the amount is faster? 0.25, whatever. And, if you just randomly use a mushroom somewhere, you might not save more than 0.15 or less than 0.2. It has to be like a strategic use of the mushroom. And there's not that many obvious spots to use it in this game, in this course. So let's go forward. I'll talk about some other time savings, and then we can look at where the other mushroom is. Okay, so I take this corner the same-ish as I did in the prior tasks. I later learned that there's a faster way to take 90-degree corners, and I'll show you a comparison of that. But that's in RTA savings in any course where there's a sharp corner needed. And it is that you jump out of a mini turbo, and it is faster, and I'll show you that. So, and that's why I'm actually going back and fixing this part to add the jumps in. So, and I jumped there. That was faster. There's a little hop there. Hitting this wall is important because it allows me to turn quickly, because I am, remember, behind even the world record significantly, the RTA world record. And this sliding thwomp, the far one here, it's not in a good spot for me to get in front of. And I'm barely able to beat it and then jump. So jumping was faster there as well. I do still have to hit this wall. So jumping when I hit the wall saves me some speed loss, but I hope when I go back and save a little more time with those jump turns that maybe I can avoid hitting this wall. Okay. So I'm going to do this and then jump here. All right, here's where we're going to use the mushroom and save more than 0.2 or 0.25 or whatever it was that I was down.
So, as mentioned, at this point right here, I think you were 0.13 behind the old test.
Okay, 0.13 behind. Okay. I think it was this point right here, if I recall.
Yeah, that was probably it.
Okay. So the next section, this is unrelated to the Null tires, other than because we have Null tires, it's beneficial to optimize this turn in a different way than I did the first time I did this task. Now we want to use a mushroom. And because we want a mushroom, I realized a couple of things about how this section is done that are not optimal in the RTA approach. And one is, surprisingly, everybody drives down these these stairs. I did it in my first task. But it's not faster to do that. You actually want to, as soon as you land, jump, and you can see 5.7. You can see my speed here, which is my XY speed. And it doesn't matter what my Z speed is. 5.8, 5.9, almost 6. Like, my speed is increasing by being in the air. If you just drive down the stairs, you stay lower than that speed the whole time. The other big benefit, it is a bigger benefit, is now I'm in a slide as soon as I land. So I can slide and I can jump around this corner. So I jump before the grass. So although my tires are all 8s, it's a lesser impact because I'm in the air. And then this is different than the current RTA strat. I mushroom as soon as I land. The RTA strat is to mushroom much closer, like more on the road almost. You want to mushroom all the way back here. It makes a big difference. So you're way back here. And because, just think about how much grass that I just covered. You know, going over that with the shroom is helpful. And then up here, when I release the mini turbo, you want to jump over this grass so that you, although you get all 8s on your tires, you at least get over it in the air. So it's not as much of an impact. And then, do you remember the current difference on the bridge here?
Yeah, I think it was 0.3 or 0.33 ahead of your old test at this point, and like 0.43 ahead of the world record.
So I went from being 0.13 or 0.16 behind at the stairs, maybe call it 0.2 behind from my loss of the not using a shroom on the first grass section, to now, you know, that turned out to be a much stronger shroom than I even thought it would be, because of that new kind of like bounce down the stairs, slide around shroom earlier strategy. And that's the one part that'll actually help the fast lap strategy. The Null tires, I can't imagine helping the fast lap strategy because you have 3 mushrooms and you're shrooming the entire time you're over grass in the fast lap. At least, yeah, you currently are. So that will help the fast lap because it's a better shroom approach. But the 3 lap, hopefully we can either figure out a way for that first slide to be RTA viable, or more likely for laps 2 and 3, we can figure out a way to make like some kind of hop and then do a mini turbo off the edge kind of approach so that you can get the Null tires. And one reason that would be particularly beneficial RTA is the thwomps start to be really tough the faster you go and by saving your mushroom on that first section and going slower, you're getting to the thwomps later, and so they can be in a better position. RTA. So I think did I miss anything, Forrest?
I think that was everything that we needed to cover.
All right, cool. So mystery boost is actually this thing like Null tires, and you can have 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them. I guess you can still call it a mystery boost, but what's actually happening is your tires are getting set to a surface of nothing, or null tires, and you're getting 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them. And the front right one's less powerful. It's less of a savings to get that one than all the others. One other place I think this could be used is on Luigi Raceway. If you're going to get a mystery boost on the one shroom laps, I think it's probably better. I haven't actually tested this yet, but I assume it to be true. You get your left front tire set to null while you're sliding around that first corner. And then when you release close to the wall so that your back left tire gets a mystery boost, or the null tire. Now you've got a 2x null tire situation, and either continue on your typical trajectory back to the road, and you're doing that faster because you're less slowed down, or it might be worth it at that point to take a more aggressive line, more on the grass and sand towards the road. So you're not going so directly to the road, you're more going towards the finish. That might be helpful. So, but I think that's all we know for now. There might be more we figure out because it's confusing and not everything makes sense yet. All right, thanks, Forrest, for the collaboration on this and all the research. It's been fun, and then also for helping with the video.
Yep.
All right, good luck, everyone. Bye.